Good morning. We are transitioning between teachers. So we have had, Clay has been teaching. We're going to have Clark, I believe, is going to be the next teacher. But before Clark teaches, I had asked Isaac and Francis if they would actually talk a little bit about Ghana. You may have had the opportunity to meet Isaac and Francis. They're two of our college students. They put together a presentation this morning just to talk a little bit about what it's like in Ghana, share a little bit of that with us, and certainly welcome up to open to questions as well. So, Francis and Isaac, do you want to come up here and we'll let you, whoever's, or if it's Isaac, I don't know who's going first, but okay.
All right. Hi. Good morning. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. I want to first thank the elders of the church for this opportunity. We think this is a great opportunity to share the church in Ghana with everybody here. I'll first begin by talking about Ghana, right? I know that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Got it. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, so first of all, I want to talk about Ghana because I'm sure not everybody here knows about Ghana. Ghana, of course, is an African country. Africa is a huge continent, has 54 countries. Ghana is located on the west coast of Ghana. It borders different countries. It has Ivory Coast to the west, it has Togo to the east, and then it has Burkina Faso to the north. To the south of Ghana is the Atlantic Ocean. This part of the ocean is the Gulf of Guinea, and that is to the south of the country. The population of the country is around 35 million, so it's not a really big country. It's like maybe one tenth of this country. And the capital city is Accra, of course. And in terms of land size, Ghana is not a really big country. Those of you familiar with the geography of this country, the land size is around the size of Oregon. So if you want to visualize that, you can compare Ghana to Oregon in terms of the land size. It's a former British colony. British colonized Ghana for centuries. So when they left, they gave us English as the official language. So most of us learn English in Ghana. In education and formal settings, we speak English. But of course, there are a lot of other local languages and local ethnicities in Ghana as well. It's not a uniform country. It's a very diverse country with a lot of different ethnic groups. We see here it is divided into 16 administrative regions. We call them regions. You can think of that as the states we have in this country. We don't have states, it's called regions. So it's divided into 16 regions. We don't have a federal government, we have a central government. So none of these 16 regions have their own government. The government is centralized in the capital city down here. Each of the regions has their own different ethnic groups. So it has around 70 distinct ethnic groups in the country. So when you think about Ghana, it's not like a really monolith of people. It's a really diverse people, 75 different ethnic groups with 75 different languages. Um, my hometown, I am from this part of the country, the pretty central of the country. Francis is to the south. He comes from the capital city. That's where he comes from. And we speak, fortunately, the two of us, we speak similar languages. But like I said, there are a lot of different languages in Ghana. Yeah. So talk about religion in the country. This is a church setting, so we talk about the religion of the country. It's a really religious country. About 70% of the population are Christians. We have different denominations of Christianity in Ghana. About 70% are Christians. 21% of the population are Muslims, and then we have other religions like traditional religion. also in the country. So the point here is that it's a really religious country with over 90%, almost 90% as religious people, majority of whom are Christians, and then you have a pretty decent share as Muslims. And there are other non-religious people there as well, as you would find in every country, but they are not a big part of the country. Yeah, so yeah, the other things we wanted to highlight is the different religions we have. This is the traditional religion. I said Christianity is the majority religion. There's this traditional religion that is also predominant in country. I'll talk about the history of Christianity and how Christianity got to Ghana. But before Christianity, this was the religion that the people practiced. It's like the traditional form of religion that the local people practiced before Christianity came in. And this religion is traditional worship. They claim they worship God through idols and smaller gods. It's similar to the story in the Bible when Moses warned them against idol worshiping and things like that. So this is the traditional religion that existed before Christianity came. They worship through smaller gods. They also worship other objects as well. They don't have a formal setting as we do in Christianity, but they worship in shrines. So this is a typical traditional worship setting in Ghana, and then this is some traditional rituals they do as part of their worship. Yeah, and of course we know Islam. So Islam is also quite predominant in Ghana. 25% of the population are Muslims. Um, they they worship in mosque, obviously, and yeah, they don't have many denominations as we have in Christianity in Ghana. So they kind of believe they are like a more united form of religion compared to Christianity, where we have different denominations. Yeah, so Christianity, like I said, Christianity in Ghana really began when through colonialism, right? When the Europeans came to came to Africa, I think around the 14th century. The first people that introduced Christianity to Ghana were the Portuguese. They arrived in Ghana around the 15th century, and that's when Christianity, they made contact with the indigenous people and they introduced Christianity to them. But Christianity did not really take a hold on the people because education and civilization was not really popular. So not until the 18th century, not many people were Christian, but until the 18th century, around 19th century, sorry, that's when Christianity really became popular in the country. And that was as a result of like the Europeans establishing schools and churches and things like that. The first missionary that came to Ghana were the Wesleyan, now the Methodist Church. They were the first people that arrived in Ghana and introduced Christianity. And now, currently, majority of Christians in Ghana are charismatic people, right? Think of Pentecostals and charismatic churches. They make up the majority of the people, majority of the Christian denominations in Ghana. Catholics are also a large portion of the people. 10% of Christians in Ghana identify as Catholics. And then you have other religious bodies, which the Church of Christ in Ghana is a part of. That church make up around 12% of the population in Ghana. So talk about the Church of Christ in Ghana. Like I mentioned, Christianity began in Ghana for a very long time, and then not until late mid 90s, that was when the Church of Christ arrived in Ghana, and it was as a result of the we might all know the Stone Campbell Restoration movement that started in this country. It got to Ghana around 1958. It was two missionaries from the U.S. that started this mission in Ghana, Wendell Broom and then Sewell Hall. These were two missionaries from the Church of Christ in the U.S. that came to Ghana in 1958 to start the Church of Christ mission in Ghana. And yeah, the restoration movement that began, a lot of other movements also got to Ghana. We have the Mormon Church, the Church of Christ, of course. The Church of Christ right now is like one of the most enduring threads of the restoration movement that got to Ghana. So it began in 1958, and as of now, 2026, as we speak, it has grown from relatively small movement to around 3,000 congregation in Ghana across the 16 regions that we have in Ghana. Just like the structure we have here, every local congregation is autonomous. We don't have like a centralized government. So, we don't have a centralized government. So it's really difficult to like have a reliable data in terms of the members that we have in the country. But the reliable data we could get is that we have over 3,000 different congregations in the country. In one thing I also wanted to point out was that after these missionaries arrived and started the church in Ghana in 1961, the church in Delaware, it's Cedar Church of Christ, it's now Green Bank Church of Christ in Delaware. They also came to Ghana and they started a Bible college in Ghana. It's still standing in Ghana right now. It's called the Ghana Bible College. And that has become like the center of the church in the southern part of the country. They train out missionaries and evangelists, and then they send them out to the rural parts of the country to plant churches and to evangelize. So the church in Ghana has a really strong roots from the church here in the US, that's for sure. Yeah. So the church structure in Ghana, this is a typical congregation. This is right here is the congregation that I belong to in Ghana. This is a different congregation that we have in Ghana. So I will hand over here to Francis to talk about like some of the works that the church does in Ghana in terms of outreach, evangelism, and other beneficiary work that they do in the country. So Francis will take over and continue from there.
Yeah, I also try to highlight some of the activities of the church. So we have this missionary who is one of the renowned missionaries in Ghana, and he's currently retired from Takoradi Church of Christ, and this was his church where he used to preach. He's currently retired, and his reason was because he wants to like take time to evangelize in other churches as well, and then plant more churches. Because if he's a preacher, he's not going to get more time to go to other churches. Right? And as at 2017, the government of Ghana was trying to establish free education for senior high schools. And so his church, which is the Takoradi Central Church of Christ, donated about 100,000 Ghana cedis to the government to establish the free education. And this free education has been running till now. I even enjoyed like the free education. So, yeah. And recently he's in Northland in Ohio Church of Christ. He's having a lectureship there. I think a 1-week lectureship, which will be ending next week. And then in 2024, he also led the same local church, which is the Takoradi Church of Christ, to donate about 330,000 Ghana cedis to one of the renowned teaching hospitals in Ghana to support X-ray infrastructures and also to donate beds and other things, because they were lacking some of these things in the hospital and people were dying. So he led his church to donate about 330,000 Ghana cedis to the hospital. And he has been doing that every year. In the church, we do also take some evangelist work, like some kind of outreach. This particular one is my local church. We went for an evangelism at a certain community, and I was even the one taking the video. So we went there in the evening, and then we did some 1 hour, 30-minute service, and we had about 12 people who were baptized that day. Yeah. And we also do have some rural evangelism for some of the high schools and universities in the country. So we plan like a 1 week evangelism where we meet the students and then we teach them about the Bible, because some of them do not believe in God. And we also believe that even some of these Pentecostals and other things, the way they believe in God is kind of different. So we try to teach them about the real word of God, and then sometimes you do get people to convert from the other churches, and then they join us in our church.
You said you had 12 baptisms?
Yeah.
So is that a pattern that the bigger churches in cities plant,
Yeah.
smaller churches in the rural
Yes.
areas?
And the church also supports children and then the youth, especially the orphanage homes. So this one, personally, I collaborate with one of our preachers in my local church, and then we donate to a certain orphanage home in a city close to our house. And then so we go there every month. And since I'm here, I just send him the money, and then he buys the stuff, and then we support them. And this is one of the renowned orphanage homes in the country, Village of Hope. And it was established by Church of Christ, which has been running for about 25 years now. And we have this Village of Hope orphanage home in every region in the country, like this. Yeah. And these were established by the Church of Christ in Ghana.
I'm sorry, what did you say you have in every region of the country?
Yeah.
Orphanage?
Yes, orphanage home.
Oh, wow.
We have about 16 regions, and then we have orphanage home in each of them, which was established by Church of Christ. So I just want to talk about the order of worship in our church. So we begin with a morning devotion where we just sing and then pray for about 30 minutes. And then we do Bible studies for an hour. So Bible studies where we teach the church doctrines, like why we don't subject to instrumental music and other things like that. We teach things like that. And then we sing and pray in between, and we have a Bible sermon, which is more like a kind of advice why we should give, why we should do certain things, like especially like in marriages, how the partners should collaborate in, or like things like that. So we categorize those kind of things, which is in the form of advice, as Bible sermon, and that takes about 40 minutes. And then we do have singing and prayers in between, and then we take the Lord's Supper and giving, which is the collection. And then we sing and pray, and then we end the service. So in all, the service takes about 2 hours, 30 minutes. But before the COVID-19 came, it was almost 4 hours. But then because of the COVID-19, we had to cut down some things, and then we have like 2 hours, 30 minutes. And when it comes to the doctrines of the church, I think it's very similar to what we have here. So I didn't really want to talk about that.
Sorry. I wanted to share a personal story that like kind of speaks to how like things we do in the church could affect people from very far away, that people that we don't even know. So I think this is a story I've shared with Wally before. I don't know if he remembers, but my mother was born Muslim. His father was Muslim, and then in 1958 there was a big crisis in Ghana. There was like political revolutions and things like that, and there was also a very severe natural disaster that happened. There was famine throughout the country. There was no rain, so food became very scarce. And so there was drought in the country, and like people were really struggling, people were dying. Hunger was very severe in 1958. At the time, my mother was 16. My mother was 16 years old, and she was Muslim, of course. And they would go to the farm. She was growing up in a small village. They would go to the farm and then realize that the fire had burnt their farm, so they would not get food. They would come home and then they would be starving. And there was a local church in that village. It was the Church of Christ, and the only place in the church in the village that had food was the Church of Christ, and that was because the church from outside had heard of this crisis, and they would send food to them. So everybody in the village would rush to that church to find food to eat. And so my mother would also go there and then try to get food to eat. So every day she would run from home and then go there to get food. And that happened, that continued for like months. And eventually, because she would go there and get food, and the church would also try to win people, so they would, as part of giving the food, they would do church service. And through that, eventually my mother stayed in that church, and she became a part of the church. And his father was really mad about that. You know, Muslims, you can't get away from their religion. So her father abandoned her because she left his religion to become Christian. But because of food, because she would get food, she wouldn't go back to Muslim because she would be hungry. And eventually she stayed in the church, and then I also became a part of the church. And so this is the story of how I became a part of the church. And I know today, like when I tell my mother today I'm standing here in front of the Church of Christ in the U.S. telling this story, she would be very proud. But I think the moral of the story is that sometimes we do great things. We help people from far away countries, Africa, of course, and we might give some small money, we might donate food. We don't even know where these things end up. But standing in front of you, this is like one of the stories of how these things we do really affect the lives of people, right? Because I am a part of this church because somebody from here who didn't know my mother donated food to her, and eventually I am standing in front of you here. So I think the story is that we should continue to do good. We should continue to help whenever we can. We should continue to assist people and also be welcome to people. I think my mother today will be proud to stand before you and then share this story with you. So I think that's what I wanted to talk about. And it's also a really big privilege for Francis and I to be accepted among you and then to worship together with you. All right, thank you.
No, that's good. Go ahead. If there's any questions first. I was just going to say it's great to have Isaac and Francis here. I think they both happen to be PhD students in the same department, chemical engineering. Larry's old alma mater there. Huh? Francis is starting his second year in the PhD program, so he's got the qualifying exams coming up and so on, starting to do research. And Isaac, you're starting third year or fourth year? Fourth year, all right. So it's really great to have you here, and it does open our minds up to the differences in the world and how the church is doing. And I hope all of you get the Christian Chronicle delivered to you that says News from Churches of Christ, and there's always a section that's international news. And it's really inspiring, I think, sometimes to see that international news, to see how much hunger for the gospel there is, to go from one congregation in 1958 to 3,000 today. It's really a fertile ground for mission work and for spreading the kingdom. So it's inspiring to read about, and there's a lot of things that happen there. Well, I know that Kelly did a medical mission to Malawi, Africa, and there's a lot of work like that. There's Bible colleges to support orphanages, medical missions, and so on. And as you heard, it can often produce great things that last a long time. So,
Francis Boba owns some land in the Dorport, and he donated some of it to a church building. And when they were building it, the Muslims would come in and tear it down, and they had to get it up so high before the Muslims couldn't touch it. They got that church building built, and the congregation's pretty big there.
what country was that?
It's in Ghana, but it's a Dorport city,
Oh,
town.
yeah. They don't have as many conflicts, from what Francis and Isaac told me, they don't have as many conflicts with Muslims in Ghana as you hear about in some countries, but there's some.
Don't be surprised if one day we have some conflicts here.
All right. Well, thank you for your attention, and we really appreciate getting to know Isaac and Francis more and getting to know more about the church outside our borders. Thank you.